study that found only 2% of people take the stairs when there's an escalator available. Now, I would argue 100% of people know that taking the stairs is going to be better for them in the long term, right? Better mental health, better physical health. Yet 98% of people choose to do the easy, more effortless thing that might even harm them in the long run. It's almost like a metaphor for humans. If we have the option to do the easy thing, we will do it even when we leave all these benefits of doing the slightly harder thing on the table.
A lot of the stuff that I was researching and your books often talk about, everyday functionality, how to build resilience and stay physically and mentally, in shape. And it's a lot of the everyday things. What's driven you to maybe dive deeper into usage of everyday things?
So I think that for background, I used to be an editor at Men's Health Magazine. I was there for about 6 or 7 years. Then I was a professor at a university for a while. And my sort of training has always been in health and science journalism. And I think we're at an interesting point now with the internet where we've never had more health information than ever. But to me, a lot of it goes so far down the rabbit hole that it becomes impractical. Right. The sort of a example I would give is, you listen to, I don't know, it's a super long podcast and there's like a 57 step routine you have to do before 7 a.m. for, optimal health. And that information is great in a vacuum, but it completely gets thrown out the window when you factor in human behavior. And so I try to look at things through the lens of, one, is there enough evidence that suggests this will actually move the dial? Because a lot of stuff, like when you really peel back the layers, it's not going to do much. And when you do the one thing, what are you not doing? Right? Like life is really complex. And then two, through the lens of, will people actually do this? Right? So I'm always looking for the highest return practices. Because in my own life, I'm a writer. I gotta be writing every day. I do a lot of stuff. I want to stay healthy. I want to stay fit. I want to build resilience, but my time is limited. So what is going to give me the highest return on my time invested? And I'm inherently a skeptical person. I'm pretty brutal with how I'm going to spend my time because I realize I have, one shot at life and I don't want to spend it doing 57 steps before 7 a.m., especially if those 57 steps are not going to actually help drive me towards this ultimate goal of living better.
Yeah, well, I think the internet is so overwhelming. You wake up one day and you're eating the healthiest eggs, and then the next day, my eggs are the worst eggs that you could put in your body, and they're full of soy and junk, and I mean it's one of those things where you mentally break yourself down on a regular basis. If you get too far into that depth, you have to simplify it. I got diagnosed with colitis when I was in my early 20s. And a lot of it, I think, just came from how I handled stress and what I wasn't doing, where I was focusing my time, what the diet was. It was, I was in 20s, so you could drink beer and eat wings and hang out with your buddies. And my mom's making these great Italian meals. And fast forward to 38 and I'm starting a new business and I'm going out and building something from the ground up. Now it's getting worse. Never had a problem again. So I decided I was going at that point in time from 26 to 38, 0 problems. Then 38, it's amplified bad again. So I started looking at patterns, just simple things that I had done at the same times that were, high stress, major. When I first was diagnosed, my son was born. It was like the firstborn son. That's a stressful moment. It's fun. But the point I'm getting at is I had cut all these things out and I made it so hard. Nutrition was gluten-free, dairy-free. I couldn't eat when I went places. It was just so stressful that it was almost a cycle of stress I couldn't get out of. And once I shook it and simplified it down to 4 or 5 things. Hey, I'm not eating bread most of the time, but if I go to an Italian or French restaurant and it's homemade, I'm going to get some bread. And I had these little tiny things. It was so simple, but life can get so out of control that way.
Yeah, I agree. It's don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. And that's kind of how I frame a lot of things. And I think that if you just kind of look, a lot of my work kind of looks at how the past, the human past, can inform how we should live today. And so if you think about how humans live for most of time, we came up in this context of we lived outdoors. We're outdoors all the time. We lived in communities where we had to rely on each other and talk to each other all the time. The food we ate was relatively unprocessed, right? We were moving all day. The average person used to take 20,000 steps a day. And those basics, I think, if you can just get back to those basics, like those are kind of embedded in our biology and what we need. If you can just kind of get back to that, you're going to be fine. But also recognize that you hit the cosmic lottery being born today. There has never been a better time to be alive. And I'm not going to like not have the homemade bread at the Italian restaurant just because like some study said, oh, well, gluten, blah, blah, blah. Like, hell no. You have to enjoy the ride, but you also have to realize that you got to put some rails on yourself. You know, you got to make sure that the roller coaster is attached to the rails there and sort of keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, I know you talk a lot about modern comforts and how they're helping us to avoid discomfort, and that can even be impacting our relationships, not just our physical well-being, but they're also maybe not allowing us to go as deep with people because this modern comfort is almost too comfortable.
Yeah, I think, you know, especially after the Industrial Revolution, like the world just started becoming more comfortable in every single way. Like, you know, we live at 72 degrees now. We have easy access to tons and tons of food. We've engineered movement out of our lives. But to your point, I think it's also affected our social lives in the sense that we're not as social as we used to be. And even when we do connect with people now, it's often mediated through text. It's like, you know, you used to pick up the phone and call your best friend and be like, yo, what's up, dude? What's going on? How are you? The conversation would weave in all these different ways and it was spontaneous. It was unpredictable. But now it's like, oh, I'm just going to text. How are you doing? You get back, good. How are you? I'm good. That's it, right? So I think there's a case for trying to take the extra step and do the slightly more uncomfortable thing, which, you know, for some people, it's just like pick up the phone and call. Right now, when you receive a phone call from your friend, you're like, oh my God, did someone die? What's going on here?
Yeah, they expect it to be bad right out of the gate.
Expect it to be bad. And then just trying to take that mindset of like, what sort of thing that I can do might be a little more uncomfortable, but will give me a bigger long-term return on my time invested. So the Substack is called 2%. And that comes from a study that found only 2% of people take the stairs when there's an escalator available. Only 2%. Now, I would argue 100% of people know that taking the stairs is going to be better for them in the long term, right? Better mental health, better physical health. Yet 98% of people choose to do the easy, more effortless thing that might even harm them in the long run, given how little we move today. So to me, that stat, it really isn't about the stairs, though. It's almost like a metaphor for humans and how if we have the option to do the easy thing, we will do it even when we leave all these benefits of doing the slightly harder thing on the table, off the table. So I just think about that a lot. It's like, if I have to do something, is there a way that I could do this? It might be a little harder, but if I'm going to get a big return over time, like I got to take that choice every time.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to relationships, we're you know, and we're looking at these modern comforts. I think back, you know, to something as simple as when I first got married in my early 20s. My wife and I was like, hey, there's no TV in the bedroom. We can't have a TV. It's just going to be a distraction. This is our sanctuary. It's a place to sleep and to connect, and you know, it's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one day I woke up in the most recent past, and we're both laying in bed on our phones. And you know, somehow a rule that probably stood with us for 19 to 20 years that allowed us to stay focused on the most important thing, our own relationship, has kind of gotten into, that's a modern comfort where I can wake up and she's not awake and I can start answering stuff or doing early research for a podcast or whatever it is. And all the excuses are all bad. And the reality is it's something that I definitely want to change so that I can make it a little bit less comfortable. So, by moving something away or setting the phone at a different spot. But she's not as into the decisions I'm making at this point in time. So I need I need to help her somehow figure this out. She's not going to do it. We're gonna work on it. But the TV has now infiltrated my bedroom is the point, and that's a modern comfort I wish I never allowed added into it.
Yeah. I mean, technology, the role of technology is effectively makes our lives easier, but it subtly weaves itself in. And then you find you've lost all these things that were important that might have been a little bit harder, but that actually helped you live better. And so I think it's, the first step is kind of becoming aware of that, which it sounds like you are. And then asking yourself, okay, how do I use this tool in a way that helps me, but doesn't hurt me? And you can apply that to really any technology.
Yeah, and if you think about this, it's pretty interesting. Look at the major changes that we saw. Growing up in the '80s, I saw the transformation of fast food. So many of my friends started to have fast food every day or every night. We did a lot. We played a lot of soccer. I played basketball. My parents were both working and busy, but we didn't do that. We ate dinner together at the table every day. I think as these modern comforts appear, we have choices. And that's what you're talking about. And that's what you spend a lot of your time writing about is these choices that we're making. And I'm glad my parents made the choice to not inundate us with garbage food so that we were focused on not only the food that was going into our bodies, but the community that we were building in and around the table. To this day, we still have a Sunday night dinner with my sister, my brother, our families, and it's a part of our entire knit of a family. We watch everybody grow up together. It's not just about the food that goes into our body. It's also about the culture and the community and the other things that these are all things that happen in history that we've seen before, just in different ways.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think you're pointing out something that happens that when a change happens, it's not just that one thing happens, it's that all these other ripple effects happen. So with your case of fast food, okay, it's not only that now our food quality is lower, but we're no longer eating it together. Another good example of this is cell phones, especially with kids. So there's a lot of talk around how cell phones are ruining kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Should kids be spending a lot of time on their phones? Probably not. But you have to ask, what else is happening when a kid is on their phone? Well, all of a sudden they're not playing with other kids. They're not outside. They're not moving their body. They're probably not doing something where they're learning new things, like they might be from a book or a game or even putting together Legos where it's like, oh, I got to figure out how to build this castle, right? So all these changes, they have just all these little ripple effects that we often forget about.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I don't know if you had the same experience, but my mom and dad would lock the door and say, go outside and play. And we would have to stay outside. And I would convince my sister to play games with me that my dad would say, use your imagination. When I was a kid, everyone used their imagination. And I'd be outside. I'm like, oh my God, he lived in the country. I think it was a lot easier to use your imagination out there. Like I'm in a neighborhood. And I get my sister to play these games, and then she would go grab a book and sit in the back of his pickup truck and read. And I'd spend the first hour trying to convince her to play. But this was something that my parents chose to do. So we didn't just sit in front of the television, which at the time was equivalent to the phone. I mean, again, these things, it's not like it's the first time that these changes have happened in our lives. We as parents, as leaders, as friends have to come up with strategies to be better.
Yeah, I agree. And it also, it comes down to how are you using the tool? As I kind of said it before, it's like you could have a phone that has, Instagram, Twitter, you've got like your breaking news apps that are just screaming at you about how the world is so terrible. Or you can download Audible. You can listen to podcasts that are educational. There's a bunch of apps for like that help you go on a hike and figure out where you are. There's apps for identifying animals and plants when you're outside, right? And so like those are good things. But you see that I think that go back to that 2% stat, I think most people tend to default to like the easy, fast, stimulating thing, and that can hurt us over the long run. So it takes a conscious choice of like, what am I going to use? How am I going to use this tool to better myself rather than hurt myself?
I remember being right out of college in my first job, and it had this big set of stairs that went up to the second floor. Like it was almost like a ballroom type of set of stairs, and you could go up, and there was glass that went all around the building, and they were wide, low, easy steps. And our company was like, let's call it the third floor, and I would get in the or fourth floor, and I would get in the elevator sometimes because if you took the steps, you could take the steps, but the other side was harder to go up and down. So I would sometimes hop in, be late because I'm 21 years old, and I'm hopping in the elevator, and someone would get in and hit two, and I almost every time I was like, I would say, seriously, two? That's right there. I got to go four. And I made it funny and people would laugh about it. I wasn't like judging them I guess I was judging them, but I wasn't being ugly about it, but I would make it funny. And people would look at me and they're like, I know it's awful. I should just take the steps. I tell myself this every day. And you built an entire newsletter around that decision.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people will think, oh, it's just one set of steps. Is it really going to do much? Will taking one staircase once change your life? No, probably not. Will taking that staircase 5 days a week at work lead to meaningful changes? Yes, it will. There's plenty of evidence that suggests. There's this one study I love. It took this group of there were these women. They were relatively sedentary, and all it had them do is walk upstairs for 1 minute 3 times a week. We're talking 3 total minutes a week. And it found that after 12 weeks, they'd increased their VO2 max and all these other important health markers by like 15%. It's like, that's a big deal coming from not much effort. So I think, and then if you apply that thinking like, okay, we've got 1 minute, 1 minute of steps. What else could I do? Could I walk to the grocery store that's a half mile away rather than drive? Could I park in the farthest spot away rather than battle for the closest one? And it's just like stacking all those decisions over time, I think just adds up to these massive changes that people don't often realize.
Yeah, it's I think sometimes it's difficult because like you said earlier, we get so used to the new conveniences that it's hard to make yourself get into those changes. I find that when I have to break habits a lot, so I'll do something really good and then I'll struggle, maybe time gets away from me or work gets busy and I'm not able to get the workouts in as consistently as I was. And so when I have to reset, the first thing I do is I try to rebuild the habit by just showing up. And so I might do 15-minute workouts or 10-minute workouts for 5 or 6 days in a row, just so that I know that I can get back in the habit again. And it's like, once you taste it, you can't not do it again. But once you remove it, it's really hard to go back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I never want to go work out. I'm never like, oh yes, let's go work out. This is going to be fantastic. It's always like, oh, okay, got to work out. But I've also worked out enough in my life that I know that like the minute I get in there, and after the first set I do, I'm going to be like, oh, good. I'm glad I did this. This feels great. Yeah, let's see this thing through. And it's often just as simple as like just getting 1 foot in front of the door, because that second foot will follow, and then the third, and then the fourth, and then you'll be glad you walked through that door.
That's great. You've been in this space for a long time, whether it's Men's Health or writing at Substack and putting out 3 articles a week. What are some of the things that, this is an audience where high performance is a really wide variety. Life is the biggest part of this podcast, but high performance is something that I think a lot of people are just doing more than the average person. They're more the 2% types of people that are taking the steps, and if they're not, they want to.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you're finding in research that people can be doing to really elevate their game one day at a time with maybe some of the simplest steps?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it would depend on what the sort of area or topic is. Why don't you throw some topics at me and I'll try and.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go with your newest book, because I think this is super interesting, and I've got it right here. Walk with Weight. I think one of the coolest things in here is that you just talk about the simplicity of rucking, and something that's been going on, training for military all these years. My wife wears a weighted vest every day.
Awesome.
I mean, she goes for a walk with the dog and wears a weighted vest, and she's like Superwoman with her workouts, but she started doing the weighted vest, and I started out with like the 8 to 10 pound one. And I bought the 20-pound one, and she's already on the 20-pound one and wearing that on a regular basis. So she's a believer. It sounds simple. You're seeing more and more people do it. That's something that I would say is a simple habit that she's built in, that plays right into your research with the newest book.
Yeah. And it plays into the 2% mindset too. Like, so with physical activity, I think that, I think walking with weight, whether you're throwing on a weighted vest, whether you are throwing some weight in a backpack and going for a walk, I think that is one of the highest return activities you can do. And the easiest way to understand why is that you're mixing strength with cardio. So because you're carrying weight, your muscles are having to work harder. But because you're also walking across the earth, you're getting an endurance effect. So it kind of has this 2-in-1 factor that running alone wouldn't give you, because you're not getting strength from running. That lifting alone wouldn't give you, because when you lift, you're not really getting that much endurance, right? You do like a set for 20 seconds, then you rest for a minute. Like it's not an endurance activity. So this kind of gives you a 2-in-1. And I think that also comes with a lot of other benefits. So for one thing, walking with weight burns more calories per mile than running or walking alone without weight. So you get more return on every mile. It also seems to be uniquely good for fat loss. And I think that's because the research suggests it's because when you have weight on your skeletal system, it almost signals your body like, hey, we should probably hang on to this muscle because we have to use it, but we need energy to do this endurance activity. So let's pull it from fat. So it seems to be great for fat burning. And then there's also the fact that you get outside, right? Like being outside is one of the best things you can do for, if we're thinking about it from like a productivity, high performer standpoint, one of the best things you can do for decreasing stress, for coming up with good ideas, for enhancing your productivity once you get back into the office. There's just like all these good things that happen when you go outdoors and spend time outdoors around your mindset. And it's also really safe. So I think a lot of people, I love running. I also recognize that like running has probably the highest injury rate of any activity that people do. It's anywhere from like 20 to 79% of runners get injured every year. And the injury rate of rucking is very, very low. It's like more akin to walking, which is about 1%. And it also seems to make you more resilient in the sense that it seems to push away back pain, can help your back and your core become more resilient, makes your lower body stronger. So it's just one of those activities where it just is packing so much into one thing that I think it makes a lot of sense for people to do it. And especially, so to bring in the 2% concept, it's like I have 2 dogs and they're both insane. So they need to be walked every single day.
So what kind of dogs are they?
We have a pit bull mix and I have a German short hair pointer.
Oh, GSP. Okay.
The GSP is especially insane.
I have a Vizsla. I have a Hungarian Vizsla, one of the cousins of the GSP. So I'm very familiar. That's what I was thinking you were getting at.
So you know how insane hunting dogs are.
Yeah.
This dude is insane. He needs his walks. So when I go for a walk with the dogs, I could do it, without any weight, and that would be great. But if I throw on a pack with 30 pounds in it or whatever, now I'm getting more from every step. and I'm still accomplishing that act of walking the dogs. So it's really easy to just flow it in your life. Like when I've had, so for a lot of my work, I'll go do these kind of, I'd call them crazy. My wife would call them stupid adventures. So, for example, in the spring, I did this 850-mile hike in southern Utah. And for that, we were hiking about 25 miles a day. We had all our gear on our backs. And to get ready for that, I would just throw on a weighted pack as I did like random stuff in the house. I'd be working at my stand-up desk, I'd have it on. I'd be vacuuming, I'd have it on. But it's like I've added that to just like get more stimulus and get more out of that activity.
So it amplifies it. So when you're looking at something like that and you have the weighted vest, there's actually a benefit to having something that's not as evenly distributed, correct? Isn't there some kind of benefit to having like a rucksack or doing something that's maybe a little bit different, the way that the weight is adjusting, or does that make a difference? Is it just good to have it, period?
I think big picture, it's good to have it, period. There are some differences, some practical differences that I get into in the book between having weight in a pack versus in the form of a weight vest. I think for most people, most of the time, packs are a little bit better. And one of the main reasons is just it's more accessible. Like if you're listening to this right now, you may not have a weight vest at home, but I guarantee you have a backpack somewhere. And I guarantee you have something that weighs something that you can put in that pack and you can just go for a walk. Like you don't have to overthink it. Just put some stuff in the pack and go walk.
Yeah, if you see the kids that go to school nowadays, my son's in high school. When my oldest son was in high school, I'd be like, "Why is your backpack so full?" He's like, "Oh, we don't use the lockers anymore." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't use the lockers anymore? They have like bags that they're like, I mean, the backpacks are filled to the brim." And yeah, he's like, "Who has time to go to the locker? I'm not doing all that." So none of the kids were using the backpacks, but were using the lockers. So they were carrying their stuff all the time. So naturally, I guess it was a benefit for them to be doing this and kind of doing everyday tasks from class to class and having their very own rucksack on their back on a regular basis.
Yeah, totally. I'm glad to hear they're still making kids drag a bunch of books between classes. I would have thought we would have just put it all in an iPad now, but
I think it
we're good
depends
to
on the
go.
school district, depends on the financial place of what's going into the school, how quick they want to update the textbooks. Do they want to change all the stuff in the textbooks or not? Like where are we at? I don't know where those things end up. And I think it's always difficult
Yeah,
to
and
know.
why sell someone a $300 iPad when you could sell them seven $400 textbooks?
Man, in college, I'll never forget going and having no money and barely being able to make it, and then going to that stupid bookstore and dropping like $800 on books that I might have opened 3 times.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
just wanted your professor to tell you, are you gonna use the book or are you not gonna use the book? Just tell me. And nowadays I think they're more apt to tell you. My son will say, "Hey dad, I've got to get this accounting principles book." And I'm like, "Okay, go get the book. If you think you need it." Nowadays he might buy 1 or 2 books compared to what I was buying. We bought all of them.
yeah.
So
When I was a professor, I actually didn't assign any textbooks because I was just like, you don't need to be spending $200 for this thing. That would sometimes make the department kind of annoyed because a lot of the more academic professors, uh, they earn income on textbooks, but I'm just like, I am not subjecting 300 kids to a $200 bill each. It's crazy.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we took an outlook that looked out for the actual students that are coming there to learn, instead of amplifying and stacking the takeaways of how we can make more money, that would be a benefit to everybody in education. So I like that mentality. Um, I'm curious. You said something a few minutes ago when you went on this 850-mile crazy hike. Your wife calls it crazy. You call it adventure. How have you found the compromise in marriage? So where is that line? What kinds of things are you doing together, and what kinds of things are separate?
Oh, she's pushing me out the door, man. Um, no, I'm just kidding.
So you're talking about like just being, you mean she's pushing out the door to have some free space and free
Yeah,
time because
get
you're a
the
writer, so you're around a lot.
get the hell out of here. Um, no, she understands. You know, I was already a writer when we met.
Right.
I was working at the magazine, and I was kind of the guy at the magazine who they would send in to, weird places to meet weird people who had weird ideas. So that's always been my job. Now, of course, the asks of the things I do have gotten bigger over time, like longer stints. But she's cool with it. She understands it's my job. She's like, all right, I'll get a break. I can just kind of do my own thing. And I will say that the periods alone when we're apart from each other, I think have been good, because then you start to really think of the other person when you're alone, and you appreciate them. You really start to look forward to seeing them again. And I think that strengthens every moment you have thereafter. So I think it's kind of counterintuitively actually been a really good thing for us.
Yeah, you think back. I used to say this all the time when cell phones started to become popular. Now they were obviously popular when we got married, but they became more and more. Texting became more and more pertinent, and my wife would text me questions throughout the day, and when it was fairly new, and I would come home and I didn't answer any of the texts in the beginning of the days. I just didn't even respond. And she would be like, "Why are you not responding to me?" And I'm like, "Adrian, I look forward to coming home and talking to you. Now we get to talk, and I can tell you about the day. You could tell me about your day." Now that's obviously changed nowadays, but in the very beginning, I think it's crucial. And then I travel quite a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
so I find the same benefit. You know, that there's something extremely healthy about having a relationship that is both connected and independent. Having your own independent journey or adventures are really, really important. And I don't mean like girls or guys getaways where your goal is to separate or find somebody else to fill the time. I mean like actually doing something where you're becoming healthier or
Yeah.
stretching yourself. And I think that's a really great benefit in a marriage. And I read on one of the Substack articles, I think you referenced her work had some kind of competition about steps. And so she seems like a competitive individual because she wanted to win it. And she was doing like 30, 40,000 steps a day. So
Yeah, dude.
like, I mean, that shows me that she obviously is of the same mold as you because she's got that edge.
Yeah, she got a under desk treadmill and would literally, right as she started work at 7 a.m., she would walk all the way till like 3:30 in the afternoon. I would be in my office and I could just kind of hear the light hum of the belt and her feet just plop, 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 plop for like 9 hours a day. It was insane, but it was awesome.
How bad did she smoke the closest competition? Like she had to beat them by like 20,000 steps, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Wasn't even close.
it wasn't even close. I mean, it was like it was like putting a toddler up against Usain Bolt at the end of it. It was just insane.
That's awesome. Those are moments where you're like, dude, you are definitely competitive, and I love it. But now, how did she continue it? Did she keep doing anything similar, or did she kind of like ease off the throttle quite a bit?
Yeah, she still does it. I would say she's not as insane about it now, but yeah, she still breaks out the under desk treadmill all the time, and we walk together a lot. We go. She's usually comes along on the dog walks, and so yeah, she's definitely active. She's not like one of those people that's going to do CrossFit or go like lift in the gym, but it's just like if the task is walking, she will go all day and then some.
Yeah, my wife is a sprint walker. Like I sometimes find myself having to almost pick up and jog to keep up with her. And I'm not a slow walker. I'm a pretty fast mover, but she moves at a different pace. And I know a lot of research shows the speed of which you walk is also a great longevity resource. So as I'm watching her get in front of me, I'm thinking about it, how quickly I'll die before her. And
Yep.
that's not always a good symbol. Not something I
Yeah.
want to think about on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it actually, to your point, it really is a good marker, and it also, I mean, a lot of the studies have been in older people, but they're actually showing in younger people too. Like people who just naturally walk fast tend to live longer, and it's probably because it kind of sets a tone for endurance that lasts into old age.
Yeah. What a great skill though, just to be able to get out and move, and the simplicity of that, it can really add up, but it does turn into a workout. We walked to lunch the other day, and I said, I just went on a walk on the beach 2 days ago, and my average pace was like 2 minutes less than that, 2 minutes more than what we just walked to the restaurant, which was supposed to be a casual walk to go grab a bite to eat.
Yeah.
And so it's good. It's pushing my limits as well. I
There you
think
go.
the gait is different. I think her she must have some longer strides. I can't figure it out, but I'm trying to catch it.
There you go.
Michael, what's next? What's the next adventure? What anything upcoming that you're super excited about?
Well, right now, I'm writing another book that involves that long hike I did in the spring. So I'm in the closing phases of that, which means I'm, just slowly driving myself crazy, locked in my office when I'm not, chatting with cool people like you. So that's a fun process, because you kind of go through this emotional swings of like, this book is terrible. This is an absolute piece of crap. You need to delete it. And then you'll write a sentence and you're like, that's not a bad sentence. Good job. And then you write the next one. You're like, that one sucks though. And it's just like, you have to go a little bit, you have to be crazy to write a book. And then the book enhances that and makes you a little bit crazy for a while. But then you get out of it and you're like, I learned a lot from doing that and I appreciate it. So I'm in the crazy phase of that right now. That'll come out next year, and then continuing to do the Substack, and adventure wise, we will see. I'll probably end up doing something in the fall, but I haven't quite figured out what it'll be. We'll see. So hopefully it's not 45 days. We'll find out.
do you have like a list of things that you want to accomplish as you look at these adventures, or is it more spontaneous of where you think the opportunity to learn something and share it is really going to add the most value? How are you approaching them?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit the latter, in the sense that because I'm a writer, it's like, anything you do in life, it can become material. And for me, the material has to have some utility to the person reading it. So I always try and look for, what could be a possible lesson from this that's different than what I've done before. And that tends to open doors to things that are unexpected.
How can we take what you're learning in Substack and what you're finding success in and bring it to the podcasting space? I mean, anything you've been doing a lot of podcasts. You've been on some of the best ones, from Huberman to Rogan, to Peter Attia, to Scott Danner's High Performance Life. I'm super excited about that. What are that's a joke, folks, but those other ones are really great podcasts, and we're all just working to get there. But what are some of the things that you see on the podcast of some of the greats, some of the things that really stand out? Any similarities to what you're doing every day?
I mean, it really depends on the host. Some hosts, their skill set is doing an insane amount of research. And I will say, the fact that you've referenced articles in my Substack that are 2 years old, you're doing something right. That's a good job. I haven't had anyone go that far back in the catalog, which is awesome.
I'm new to Substack, so maybe I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. So that's
could be that. Beginner's luck.
Yeah.
Keep it going. And then some are good at just, like a Rogan, for example. He just goes into weird places that somehow, but he makes it work.
Yeah.
You're like, where is this going? And then somehow he finds a way to make it work. I mean, it is interesting, because I think it's like finding what I think it is. And I don't host a podcast currently, so I could just be making stuff up, but I think it's kind of discovering what you're good at and really leaning into that. It's like, for example, like once Huberman got really popular, you started to see some similar podcasts pop up, but it's like, no one's going to out Huberman.
Yeah, he's
like,
the guy.
Good luck. Same with the Rogan thing, where it's like, we're just going to turn a mic on and like talk for 4 hours. And it's like, only Rogan can do that. But the question becomes like, what is your kind of unique skill set, and how can you sort of lean into that? That's kind of what I think. It's like, for me, one of the reasons I left the magazine world is that even though they would let me get out of the office and go do some wacky things, it wouldn't be all that frequent. And I'm just not a creature that does well if I have to be in the office for too long. Like I learn best, I communicate best if I'm able to get out into the world, to do some wacky things, meet wacky people regularly, and just kind of be out there and figure it out. And the office sort of constrained me. So that's one of the reasons I left the magazine world and then went over to Substack, because Substack allows me to do that. Yes, I have to sit in the office and write the article, but to get the information, I got to go out and live and figure things out.
Yeah, I think that's great. Did you have any bourbon or drinks while you were on the show with Joe, or did you
No,
there's no cigars, no
no,
unhealthy things to make you stretch your comfort zone?
no, nothing.
He just had a Diet Coke waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't drink.
Anything?
I did have, I think I did drink a copious amount of coffee. I think we went through like 4 French presses or something like
Oh,
that.
that's powerful too. That's a great way to drink coffee.
Yeah, it's good.
That's awesome. Well, look, Michael, I'm looking forward to learning Substack with your stack, and I hope our readers take a second to dive into that if they're not currently doing that. Also, the latest book is you know from the 2% team here, Walk with Weight. I've got the book here. We'll have all that. This is the definitive guide to rucking. And obviously, we'll look forward to the 850-mile hike that's helping to bridge this next book. I know it's a rough, hard work to put it all together, but once it's there, it's really, really great, and a lot of people benefit from it. So thanks so much for putting out what you're putting out and being a part of our podcast today.
I appreciate you having me on, man. This was a lot of fun. And like I said, your research is very impressive. So keep it up.
So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.